what is Zionism? I think the best way to understand Zionism is it's a European nationalist movement that arose out of the European, Romantic period and the Spring of Nations, as they call it. And it was basically atheistic Jews, secularized Jews who hated Orthodox Judaism, who hated what Jews had been and blamed those Jews for anti-Semitism, for the suffering of Jews throughout the centuries and millennium. And so what they did is they decided, instead of fighting against anti-Semitism and saying, no, Jews should be able to live anywhere, Jews should be able to live in their home countries, in Europe, they said, no, it's the Jews' fault that they are under attack. And so the answer to it is not to fight back, but to join the anti-Semites and to become a separate nation. And so they invented the concept of Jewish nationhood. And so in order to do that, they needed a mythology, as any nationalist movement needed. And so in order to appeal to Jews, they used the Jewish religion. They took the theology of the Jewish religion and secularized it, as Prometheus took fire from the gods. Zionists took the holy aspects of Judaism, the supernatural theological aspects of Judaism, and made it into something that could be accomplished by political means. So the idea of Jews around the world going to the land of Israel was something that only in the Jewish religion, that only God could make happen. It was actually forbidden for Jews to emigrate to Palestine in mass. Same with having a Jewish state. There's in the Jewish religion, there's a Jewish kingdom, but that only happens, again, when God decides. There's nothing that Jews can do to facilitate that. It's completely forbidden. To have a Jewish army, any of these things. So to have a temple, for example. And so Zionism took these concepts and made them into achievable goals. And Theodor Herzl used basically contacts through diplomacy, kind of like an early Israel lobby, where he went to Arthur Balfour in Britain, and he went to Tsar Nicholas in Russia, both of whom were raging anti-Semites. Tsar Nicholas had actually overseen pogroms of Jews in the Pale of Settlement, which is where my ancestors come from. May they rest in peace. They were all murdered Nazis in the Holocaust, and he managed to get support from highest diplomatic levels for a quote unquote Jewish national homeland in Palestine. And so these waves of emigration began because basically European anti-Semites wanted to get rid of Jews, and Zionists also wanted to see a Judenrein Europe, a Jew-free Europe, and all of them to move in Palestine. So Zionists and anti-Semites always had a common agenda of getting rid of all Jews from Europe. And so this logic of Zionism being put on the tracks of the Jewish religion, of Jewish messianism, did not stop there. And so through the decades, what happened is as Zionism compelled more and more Jews to relocate to Palestine and then the state of Israel, well, those goals were accomplished, but it has further stops along this ideological pathway. And so all of this, again, is completely forbidden in Judaism to this day. Or the mainstream of Orthodox Judaism completely rejects Zionism. In fact, many of the Orthodox Jews in Israel itself reject Zionism. They are anti-Zionist. They see this as an abomination. So Zionists basically changed the Jewish religion, and in order to suit their nationalist goals. And it has gotten more and more and more extreme to the point where there's even a focus on destroying the Al-Aqsa compound and the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and expelling the Islamic presence and any non-Jews in the area, of course, churches for Palestinian Christians as well. And on the rubble of Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the oldest shrine in Islam, and the third holiest site. They want to build some kind of slaughterhouse of worship where they sacrifice animals to God, as was done in the times of the temple. However, again, this is completely forbidden in Judaism. For a Jew to even step foot onto the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa compound, is considered a grave sin in Judaism, punishable by a divinely imposed death sentence. In fact, it is one of the worst sins a Jew can do. And this is for theological, sort of esoteric theological reasons, but nonetheless, it is true. But Zionists, because they're nationalists, have recast the Al-Aqsa compound as something to be conquered, because it's all about nationalism and conquest and fascism and expelling anyone who does not agree to submit to the Zionist theocracy. And so this is essentially the point we're at today. So this war, this ethnic cleansing, this genocide of Gaza is not about security or anything like that, of course. It's actually for the ideological core of Zionism, which is running the show today. It is about removing all traces of Christianity and Islam and anyone who is not Jewish in the demented, perverse version of Judaism promoted by Zionism, and establishing this theocratic state. And so, of course, secular Jews in Tel Aviv would not be allowed to live. They would not be able to, drive or on Shabbat, on the holy Sabbath. They will be forced to live in this theocracy. So this is the ideology driving Israel today. And Netanyahu, well, he's completely secular and is not an observant Jew at all. He has surrounded himself for years and years and years with the most fanatical elements of Israeli society. The best two examples, the most prominent, are Itamar Ben-Gvir, the national security minister, who is a follower of Rabbi Meir Kahane, who's essentially like the Zionist version of an ISIS ideologue. And Itamar Ben-Gvir was a member of what Israel and the United States considered a terrorist group. This Kahanist group was called a terrorist group, and now he's actually running the police. And he's the one who has banned these anti-war demonstrations. And then you have Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, who in 2017 published his genocidal plan, literally in Hebrew called the subjugation plan. And this plan called for full ethnic cleansing. Basically, the three options he listed out in the subjugation plan were anyone who submits to the state of Israel and abides by what are called the Noahide laws, which are a series of 7 laws for non-Jews that mean no idol worship, so no Christianity, no Islam, no other religion, and basically you live as a slave. That is one option. The other option is you leave, you're ethnically cleansed, you expel, or the third option is you are killed. You're executed. So these are the 3 options that Bezalel Smotrich wrote in his public plan called the subjugation plan in 2017. And this man is a finance minister, and there are others around Netanyahu. These are the 2 most prominent ones. So what you see is, the best way I can describe Israel is it's ISIS with nuclear bombs and coffee shops in Tel Aviv.